Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friends in Recovery podcast with Jersey Ed. I'm your host, Jersey Ed, along with my two beautiful, wonderful, great co-hosts, Buckeye, Bambi, and Super Beth. What's up, ladies? How you ladies been? Good morning. Good morning, afternoon, and good night. I think I said this before. I'm not sure, but I might be deja vu. But I really missed you guys last week. As you guys know, we did our 5th anniversary show last week, and the Podfather was on, and we had Sweets in there. We revealed Sweets. If you guys watched the show, his face comes off when he puts his hand down. It's amazing. Carl did some amazing stuff over there. So Sweets, and but the one thing I did learn, guys, from doing this show is that, number one, we're really good today. Okay. And number two, we were really good back then, but life changes, right? Life happens, life changes, recovery changes, people change, everything changes. And, I'm grateful for those shows way back when we did them. But today, we're covering different topics. We've got Karen Reass on board with us today. She's going to discuss a little bit about what's going on and what she does for a living and how she might be able to help you. And we'll introduce her in a little bit. So it's a different world today. And I have to apply that to my life too, and I have to understand I just can't stay stagnant because I won't grow if I think everything's going to stay the same. And that's kind of what I learned. I mean, I kind of knew it, but it's just little life learning lessons from then. So did you ladies miss me? Huh? Did you miss the podcast? Did you? No. Oh my God.
You recorded it right after we recorded a show, so it didn't feel like we went a week without.
No, it didn't. You're right. But okay, I didn't miss you guys either.
Maybe I didn't miss him because I actually was watching the show.
Yes, Beth, you were watching the show. Yes, thank you, Beth. Thank you, Beth. You're wonderful. Thank you. My new co-host, Beth.
Hey, I had to watch the entire thing and type up text. So
Bambi, Miss, I win all the Purple Hearts.
Yes. Speaking of Purple Hearts, ladies, I'd like to put a little challenge out there again, because as we know, Bambi, Purple Hearts. We don't have to give her any. Beth, Orange Hearts. There it is. Me, Jersey Ed, Blue Hearts right there. And our guest decided that she's going to go for a green heart. So Karen is a green heart. Put those hearts. Lime green has to be
lime green. I love this.
All right. We'll make sure note that, Carl, because there will be a heart next to you in a little bit once we get this all done. But just write those comments below. If you want to get a hold of us, if you want to call us and tell us Purple Hearts or Blue Hearts, you can get a hold of us at 800-989-6504, or email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. And that's the show's email address. You can go to the website, friendsandrecoverycommunity.org. And if you like this, you directly send one of us a message. You got Buckeye, Bambi, and all that's in the notes. You guys can go through the notes and see how you can email all of us. So it's Bambi's email, Beth's, and mine are all in the notes. And I'd like to thank all the donors who made this show possible. Remember, this is, we can't do it without you guys. We can't do it without your donations. To make a donation, go to the website, friendsandrecoverycommunity.org, and also look how you can become part of the Friends in Recovery Fire Network, Friends in Recovery Enterprises Fire Network. It's all on there. So if you're a podcast host, you do something creative in the addictions field, we want to know about it, and we want to put you on our website. Yes, I want to put other podcasts on our website, guys. So this week's guest is Karen Reass, an interventionist, therapist, and a whole lot more. We're going to interview her in a second, but we're going to do our sober shout outs real quick here. I know Beth had a shout out and Bambi had a shout out.
I'll go first. My very good friend Megan Reeves has her birthday today. Happy birthday, Megan.
Megan, happy birthday. And like I asked last time on the show, does she listen to the show?
Of course she does.
Oh, okay. Good answer.
And
Good
if she doesn't,
answer.
she's going
Good
to.
answer. So that's 4 people that listen now. So Karen, you're going to be exposed to 4 whole people. All right. Be ready for booming business, Karen. Beth, what about you? Do you have any sober shout outs?
No, but Bambi does.
Oh, Bambi. I'm sorry. I'm trying to adjust my microphone here. So sorry. About
Bambi
that.
does have a sober shout out, but Bambi can't remember the sober shout out because I'm not fully caffeinated yet.
She is
So
not.
that sober shout out will wait till next week.
All right, we'll do the show Sober Shout Out Network. And of course, my standard sober shout out. I do want to give Carl from SoberPod a shout out because he is taking care of our website. He's doing an amazing job, guys. Go to
It's a
our
beautiful
website. Yeah, it's just he just kind of turned it around. It was trash until Carl got a hold of it. So Carl, thank you so much.
Thanks, Carl.
And while you're there, click in the community section and click on SoberPod. He put his show in the community resource section, the first one above AA, NA, everything. He is the
That's
first
awesome.
resource. So please click on it. We love SoberPod, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to when I'm not listening to Friends in Recovery. A real quick meeting update here. Don't forget we have meetings twice a day, AA meetings on Zoom. You can find all that on our website and more. Again, Friends in Recovery community.org. There's a list of every meeting that we have. You name it, at least 3 meetings a day. They're on there. Look for look for us on all our social media, Friends in Recovery communities. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, and give us a 5-star review, guys. That's really important because we want this show to get out there and we want to become the next, I don't know, whoever. I don't want to say Joe Rogan, because we're better than him, I guess, right? But whatever.
And I do have my sober shout out now.
Okay, sober shout out. Should we start the whole show over again, Bambi?
No, but because this fits in right here, because it's not the one that I can't remember. It's a different one. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I've been my brother's got some health issues, and I've been dealing with that. So I woke up because I was a little worried and stuff. But then I started thinking about you and Stacy. So my sober shout out is to the 2 of you for what you've done with Friends in Recovery, because people don't realize what all, and they don't make any money from this. But it's not just recovery from addiction and alcohol and things like that. But, Stacy just got us a trauma specialist, and we have a meeting now once a month, Trauma to Triumph.
That's amazing.
Saturday is our very first new specialty meeting for self-esteem, food issues, helping people to overcome, issues with food that we've grown up with or developed. It is just so much more than just a recovery from alcohol and addiction. It's my family. This is my family here. So that's my sober shout out. I can't talk anymore because I'm going to tear up because I haven't had any sleep and I haven't had any coffee. So.
Thank you for that beautiful shout out. And you know what? It has become a family. It's become a huge resource. You can find almost anything on our website, in our meetings, on the podcast. 5 years of podcasts now we're going on. There's a little bit of everything. And, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'll be honest with you. I just, it's kind of what I do every day. It's part of, I do all my work all day long, and Bambi knows if I'm driving home at the end of the day, I'm going to check in with her to see what was going on or what we're doing the next and whatever. Yeah, all the time. So anyways, but thank you, Bambi. I appreciate it. So, and there goes something falling on the floor. Well, you know what time it is, Bambi. It is, and Beth.
Question of the week.
Question of the week.
Question of the week.
There you go. So the question of the week, ladies, is what is your morning routine? What is your morning routine? And I'd like to welcome everybody on Facebook. I'm sorry, we had a little technical difficulties at the beginning, so I didn't really acknowledge Facebook. But Facebook, please, what is your morning routine? Let us know. And we're going to give you a little insight on our little world, what we do in the morning, and please don't tell us you do it in your underwear or naked or robe. leave that out. Okay, everybody. I had to go there. I'm sorry, but I'm going to start with our guest, Karen. Karen, what is your morning routine?
Well, it's not very exciting, but I basically do food and caffeine. So I do food, which is good, not just caffeine. And usually then I watch the news, which is kind of depressing. Not a great way to start the day. But yeah, I mean, my routine is very simple in the morning. It's just getting ready for the day. Yeah.
Good. Getting ready for the day. It's as simple as okay. There's nothing wrong with simple. So, Beth, how about you? What's your morning routine?
Well, I have two different morning routines. So sometimes my body goes, oh, it's 4 a.m., wake up. Then I get up, I do my prayers, and then I like kind of come down and get my coffee. And then I sit and watch TikTok until it's a reasonable time. And then the rest of my morning, I do the rest of my morning routine, which is, I do prayer and meditation in the morning. I look over my calendar for the day. Sometimes I get dressed and sometimes I don't. I stay in my pajamas. And depending on my work schedule, I kind of feel out the day, but I take that quiet time in the morning before children and dog and all that stuff. So
for the world starts going. Yeah. And that's what the morning routine is about, like getting us our own personal time, and if it's something simple, like Karen said, a little coffee, a little food, a little news, we need that because the day gets crazy, and I'm going to get to you in a minute, but if you don't have a morning routine, I highly suggest you get one. I really do. I highly suggest you get one. But Bambi, what's your morning routine?
Well, first I want to point out that one of our faithful followers, John L., has reminded you to hit the record button in the comments.
Too late.
So we'll talk about that later, John.
We'll have a private conversation with the manager.
Yeah. I have 3 morning routines. I know that's a little obsessive, right? I need to get a job or something, but I wake up and I have my AA routine, which is I do prayer meditations and readings. I have certain readings I do every single morning. I do that. I also read the newspaper because on
that's cool.
Condensed version, it's actually called 1440, and it tells you just the facts from the day before.
Wow.
And you can do it in 2 minutes, and I don't have to be bothered with the pictures and stuff like that on the TV. And then I have a dog routine because I have my 2 pugs, and they're first and foremost. So I have, walking, feeding, medication for them, getting them settled down so I can do the rest of my other stuff. And then lately, and this is because I'm old, guys, but I have this skincare routine that I've been doing that I started about 3 or 4 months ago, but it's actually a process. I have this I got to use before that, and this and this and this. So it's a routine, but those are my 3 morning routines: pugs, skin, and AA.
Pugs, pretty, and prevention.
There you go.
There you go.
Whatever our morning routine is it's definitely, definitely helps us through the day. I know when I do my morning routine, I can take it throughout the day because I do some specific things that take me about 2 to 3 hours in the morning. I get up at 4:30, no alarm. The minute my eyes open, I get up out of bed and hit my knees. That's the first thing I do. And then, I pray, I think, and nothing long, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever the prayer, whatever it is that day, and then I go in, brush my teeth, and then I go downstairs. I sit on the same couch, the same area, the same everything. I get myself my big old jug of water, 40 ounces of water, and I sit there and I meditate for about 20 minutes, give or take. That's the first thing I do. The next, depending on my tapping, I do a guided tapping meditation. After that, it could be from 3 minutes to 20 minutes. It depends on that. And then I do a breathing exercise, and that usually takes about 10 minutes. So that's part of my morning routine. And then I'll go make my coffee. And then I'll sit down. And before I sit down, I'll read all my affirmations. I have affirmations that I read daily, every day, every single day. I'll journal. I'll do some gratitude, make my gratitude list up, and then I'm on my way. And I'll read too. I'll read in the morning. So, and that takes about 3 hours. And the reason why I said this question because John Maxwell, who else? Tony Robbins, all these very successful people have a morning routine. That doesn't mean I'm going to be the next John Maxwell or Tony Robbins or whoever. I could be, but and even CEOs talk about this. If you go on a show and listen to some other podcasts, they talk about having a morning routine. Mark Zuckerberg has a morning routine. Jeff Bezos has a morning routine. I am really into morning routines and figuring out what people do and why it makes them successful. And the thing, and I'll close with this and we'll get on the show with Karen. The thing that I can see is that what it is it gives us time for ourselves, right? It gives, like I said earlier, it gives me time to take care of me, whatever it is, if it's a newspaper, if it's the news, if it's making your coffee, whatever it is, it gives us time for me, because the minute I'm out there and I put myself out there, it's not me time anymore, right? It's not me time. It's helping others. It's helping others no matter what it is. We're in a business of helping others. And when that phone rings, or if I have to go to that meeting, or if to help, whatever it is, I have to make sure I am prepared to help those people during the day. Put my oxygen mask on first type thing. So that's kind of my look at this question and why it's so important, I believe, for each one of us. And if you don't have a morning routine, email us. We'll help you get one. We can help you. We can give you some ideas. So that being said, Karen, thank you for joining us. She's like, well, when do I get to talk? I'd like to introduce Karen Reass. She's from Addiction Resolution Consultants. She's an ICADC, a CCI, CSFRC, ACRPS. That's the letters after her name. So that's dedication. That's a lot of work. So I'm guessing some of that is a certified clinical interventionist, certified structured family recovery counselor, advanced relapse prevention specialist. And I'm sure there's many, many more hats that you wear. Welcome to the show, Karen. And we're happy to have you. You were the big talk of the week. We were all excited to have you on the show, and you have some interesting topics we're going to talk about. But tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Well, sure. I'm somebody in recovery as well. And I guess I was just thinking about it this morning. I have 37 years. And
congratulations.
Wow.
Thank you. I've been in the field of treatment for 33. So 3 years into my recovery, I'm 34, I guess, because 3 years into my recovery, I went from doing commercial art to starting to help other people, because I had found so much help through my recovery and my sobriety, and it's an ongoing process. And that self-care routine that you guys are all talking about is so important, because it's a continual process of growth and recovery and self-care in order to stay healthy for others and be able to lead people where we ourselves have gone, because we really can't lead others there or be that power of example if we haven't walked that walk. So yeah, my career has spanned working in different agency settings, program development, teaching, the CASAC diploma program in New York.
Wow.
Yeah. And now I'm just working with families, consulting, doing interventions, working with any member of the family who wants help, who's experiencing addiction somewhere in their system, including the addicted individual. I work with them as well. So really looking at the family unit, looking at family as a system, I work with families from any angle I can to get in there and start creating more positive change and harm reduction for starters.
And that's definitely needed and really important nowadays. Harm reduction, interventions, all that stuff, because recovery looks so much different than 37 years ago. 29 years ago, yeah. Beth 32 years ago, and even Bambi a year ago. Recovery looks so much different, and we have to, again, like I said at the beginning of the show, we have to change with the times, because we can't treat addiction the way we treated it all those years ago versus what we treat today. And it's and it's wonderful that you keep up on this. Some people just treat people the same way, blah blah blah, over and over. They make their money and they go home. That's okay. But I'm impressed. So the one subject I do want to bring, well, real quick, Karen, how can somebody get a hold of you? Is there a way that they can get a hold of you?
Sure. So my website is addictionresolution.com. and they can just, or Google my name.
Okay.
And my phone number is 631-948-1497.
Okay. And that'll be in the show notes too. I like to get it out the beginning of the show because we know what happens at the end of the show. Everybody cuts it off after so long. And so that we'll get it out. But if you want some information about Karen, go to our website. Karen, one of the topics that we have here that you want to talk about, which I think is fascinating, is the neurobiological, am I saying that right? Neurobiology of addiction and how to heal the brain. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. That's one of my favorite topics. I do a 6-week education series, which I love. It's free, and we can talk about how people can access that as well. But week 4 is the neurobiology of addiction, and it really helps families and folks with addiction understand how their brains actually got rewired and hijacked by compulsive substance use, whatever they're using. So it hijacks that pleasure center of the brain. We're all hardwired to avoid pain, number one, and seek pleasure. Those are our strongest drives. And so when drugs become the pleasure experience and release so much more dopamine than naturally pleasurable experiences, our brains confuse the drug or the substance with something that's life-sustaining, life itself. And anybody, all of you know, as people in recovery, what it felt like. We would choose our drug of choice over any life-sustaining relationships, food, water, life itself. So the brain is truly hijacked. And what it's important for people to understand that rewiring can also be changed back. Mm-hmm. It does depend on the age of the person, the length of time they've been using, what they've been using, how much they've been using, of course, right? Because we can really do some damage the older we get and the longer this goes on. So there are many, many studies now, PET scans, that really show how the brain is changed by the consumption of drugs. There's much that I can talk about in this capacity, but I'll talk about the healing for a minute. Yeah. Healing takes time. That's the biggest component, is time, but it's also putting in the right ingredients. It's not just not using, right? It's getting the proper rest. It's getting the proper nutrition. It's changing our thinking, learning, getting our frontal cortex back online so that our brains can be rewired to organize around addiction instead of organizing around how to obtain our drug of choice. Yeah. So we have to bring pleasurable experiences back into our life, start having family rituals again, playing with the kids, doing the sports that we love, playing the music that we loved. It's really hard in the beginning because folks they feel dysphoric, they feel anxious, they feel depressed. We all know what post-acute withdrawal feels like. So we need tons of support in the early stages of recovery so that our brains can begin to heal, and we will feel better over time. Mm-hmm. But it takes time.
Mm-hmm. And that's like anything. But with a substance involved, even like when I started running, I didn't run marathons, back in when I was 28 years old. Right. I started with a walk around the block, and I slowly built myself up to it. Exactly. And we can do that, the opposite way with the addiction, with the drugs. We're conditioned, basically, it sounds like, to think this way. And then the pleasure for me when I run is finishing the run, being able to write it down, check the box, whatever it is. But and that's a good thing. But it sounds like what you're saying is when we get our addiction, the brain is thinking this is a good thing, and it's not, because it's destroying the family, it's destroying everything, our bodies, our jobs, or everything around us. And I guess that's why we sometimes, and all of us deal with people that don't want to stop drinking, and for the life of me, I couldn't understand why I couldn't stop drinking, right? Mm-hmm. And because I'm destroying everything. But then I got it. It clicked, and I said, okay, I'm going to have to stop drinking to get my life in order. Now my life is in order all these years ago. I still have to be diligent about it, go to meetings, but that explains a lot. Now, the healing part of that, you said some people are, depends on how much, how far down the road. Sure. Do you see older people drinking a lot, healing, or no, or what's your thoughts on that piece?
Absolutely. I mean, I've done interventions on women in their 70s. One gentleman, in his late 60s. They do need treatment. I mean, I think that they need that support of residential treatment initially to break that cycle of addiction, get through the acute withdrawal, and then obviously learn a lot of tools, because when they return to their home environments, there are going to be so many stressors that they need to learn how to cope with. So it's challenging when people are older, but then there's challenges with younger folks as well, because they haven't experienced as many consequences. So they think they have more time. At least older people can usually recognize the consequences of their use. And if they have supportive family systems, which is key, I educate the families as much as I can while they're in treatment and beyond, so that they know how to support their loved ones.
You talked about being in residential treatment. Residential treatment is a treatment center 30-day program. Why is that so important right at the beginning of recovery? Why? I mean, everybody goes to treatment. Why can't they just go see a therapist and, talk it out and get a sponsor and then go about their way and becomes perfect again? Why is that so important?
Well, for the fact that if that brain has been hijacked, people try to stop on their own all the time. How many of us woke up in the morning and said, I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to do this again. And we do it again. By one time of day, we're back to it. So, once we recognize that we're at that stage of addiction, we really need a break from the environment in which we're living. Some people can do a geographic, but some people will go to rehab. Some people can go to therapy and go to meetings and do well. But a lot of people need that early intervention and acute care for what has become an acute problem. And
I agree with you all on that. And I see people recovering, I don't want to say faster, but a better recovery, a more solid program when they go into a 30-day stay, a 60 and 90-day stay, maybe even staying into a sober living afterwards, because they're immersed into a program. They don't have to work. They don't have to take care of family. They don't have to do everything and then squeeze in a little bit of recovery here or there. Like my running, if I hired a coach when I was 28 years old and I was with a coach 7 days a week for a month, I'd be a marathon runner. I'd be a really good marathon runner, but that's not what I choose to do. I like my job. I like my family. So that's basically something you're saying. If we merge ourselves into something, it will definitely give us that boost to move us up to where we need to go. Yeah,
a foundation, really is really important.
Absolutely.
And Karen, you mentioned post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And for me, that was something because I was not a one and done. I didn't go to one rehab, but nobody had ever told me about post-acute withdrawal during my first rehab. And it hit me hard. And I drank again. And my family didn't understand what it was. So, I mean, that's so important for people to understand when they stop.
What exactly is post-acute withdrawal? Because I do hear the term, I do work in the recovery industry, but what is it? What does it look like? And how long does it last?
Sure. So we talk about the acute withdrawal being the medically managed part of coming off whatever drug we've been consuming. And sometimes it doesn't need to be medically managed if it's cocaine or something, but there's an acute withdrawal period that's usually about a week, 5 days, 7 days, where we are physically detoxed from dependence on whatever we've been using. And then, some people can go into like a pink cloud and feel great and get very hopeful, and that's wonderful. And we all pray that would last, for folks, that they stay on a pink cloud. But oftentimes what happens is the cravings do come back. These are no longer physically driven in the same way as our body needing the drug, but more psychologically driven. So post-acute withdrawal is cravings. It's confusion. The frontal cortex is not fully back online, because when our brains were hijacked in the course of addiction, we were operating in a survival mode. And that's our midbrain. And that midbrain is still firing, because we're not a whole life, we're being asked to change our lifestyle, and it's uncomfortable. So the midbrain is firing, saying, no, give me what I know. KNOW, and that causes a lot of problems. So irritability, confusion, anxiety, depression, lack of coordination, but difficulty thinking, sleeping. So these symptoms can go on for, upwards of 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, they can. But the thing is, they should get better. So they come up, they emerge, And then with proper, knowing what's happening and how to address these things is really, really helpful. So again, with proper support, we can work through it and it should start getting better. It's all about moving in the right direction. But you need, but if your family didn't know and you didn't know, it would be hard to, you could think, oh, there's something wrong with me. I'm one of these people that just can't get it, you know?
So
that
you
actually leads, so that actually leads into one of the topics that you put down that I wanted to hear more about, which is the breakdown of boundaries and repairing boundaries, right? So as we're walking into recovery, we're faced with needing to shift. I think we all know what the breakdown of boundaries are, but can you go into a little bit about how to rebuild those boundaries and what does it look like?
It's a huge topic. I spend a whole week on that in my Ed series. Well, I mean, it's a topic for 1 week. So the family really needs to understand healthy boundaries in order to support their addicted loved one, because the codependency that they would be engaged in, focusing on their addicted loved one, enabling the addicted, how can I help? How can I help? I'll twist myself into a pretzel if you just stop drinking or drugging. Family members need to stop that behavior, learn how to take responsibility for their own well-being, as Ed was talking about earlier, putting on the oxygen mask. So it's that's a huge boundary issue there. But of course, the addicted person also needs to learn about what healthy boundaries are, because they're used to, I'll speak for myself, when I was in active addiction, we were all using each other. We didn't know how to be friends. We were using each other to get what we needed and wanted. And we told ourselves we were close or we were friends, but we really weren't in healthy relationships. So understanding healthy boundaries is about learning about taking care of ourselves, taking responsibility for our choices, whether we're going to be going to a meeting, whether we're going to be going to our therapy session, whether we're going to be getting up and doing our prayers or our routine. So that kind of thing. So it's really about separating out, untangling the enmeshment of the family system, pulling it apart, getting everybody in their own lane, understanding their proper roles in the family system, because they all got messed up during the dysfunction.
Yeah. And Beth, I like that you brought that up, because it's not just the addict that is the problem in the situation. It's everybody. And a friend of mine, well, actually Sweets, Mike Wilson said this, that the best way to describe the loved one, the one who's the codependent, is that, my job was trying to get my drug, was trying to get the booze, was trying to manipulate people. Our loved one's job, or the one who's trying to put all the pieces back together, is running around after that person, trying to get them, getting their lives back together. That's what they do. They fix things. They're addicted to that fixing part. And then once we take that out, and the addict comes home and says, well, I don't need fixing anymore, because A is going to fucking help me, and this one's going to help me. The big book's going to tell me what to do. And family members like, what do I do now? What's my role? Where do I go? So that's really important, that both sides heal. If they want to stay in, like you said, a healthy relationship. If not, something's going to break. Either the addict's going to go back using again, or that family's just going to part ways, because that addict has to take care of him or herself and move on. So, would you talk a little bit about that, as far as, healing the family and the addict together?
Sure.
Yeah, that was my big question, Karen, because I have my daughter, and I'll just say, we were fine when I first got out of rehab, and then she just totally turned away from me, and she won't speak to me at all. And, and I mean, that's, I think it's a big struggle for a lot of people, because I hear a lot of people on meetings have the same kind of situation where their families just won't.
Estrangement. Yeah. I see a lot of it as well. Of course, when I'm working with families, I make myself available to talk to whomever needs to talk in a safe environment, because sometimes whatever the past has brought, it hasn't been addressed. It's been avoided. It's an uncomfortable, if we look at family systems, addicted or other dysfunctional, we've all been, most of us have been raised with these messages where, we avoid pain. Remember I said, avoid pain, seek pleasure. We're hardwired to do that. So when there's conflict, we want to avoid it. So your daughter may simply be wanting to avoid a difficult conversation. What you can do is invite her to, I would have it with a therapist, hers or yours or a neutral party, so that she might be able to feel safer or safe enough to have that difficult, break the ice, what's the problem, and start a healing process. So my understanding with family systems is that people want to feel connected. The addicted individual wants to feel connected. They don't know how, they've lost their way. Families, they may be doing the rescuing and all that fixing and micromanaging, but it becomes controlling and it becomes resented. And really what they want is connection, how to have healthy connection. So it takes, I think, counseling. Also, family members can go to Codependence Anonymous, obviously, or Al-Anon or Nar-Anon or other types of support groups for themselves and learn about, again, staying out of the role of fixer, controller, or anger or rage or whatever, because families do all the same things the addicted person does. Oftentimes, it's like a parallel process of getting unhealthy, and it can be a parallel process of getting well. It's hard, of course, if somebody won't participate, but my goal when I do an intervention, certainly at the front end, is, the first goal is to get that person to say yes to getting help. But I'm also really working the back end and saying to the family, let's stay engaged, because you're going to need a lot of information and education to know how to support and change, like Ed said. Otherwise, we're going to pull that person back into the old dynamic. We all slip back into the old dynamic. I myself, I was in recovery. I was doing well. I went home for my first Thanksgiving in recovery, and I found myself acting like the old Karen, meaning in my old role. And I had to continue to work to define myself separate from the role I played in my family system. Like, who was I? Who was I?
Where are you in that system? And roles, rules, rituals, we have to adapt to cope, right? And I know that's something that you talk about too. We were talking about the roles, but the rules and rituals, can you talk a little bit on the rules and rituals? We know what the roles are and we have to fix those roles, but the rules and rituals, do you mind expanding on that a little bit?
Sure. They're all stemming from the same problem, which is the family has organized around the addiction. They've organized themselves to try to reduce stress. What they don't understand is they're actually increasing stress and separating out into their compartments, so to speak. So the rules that go along are don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. Don't feel, don't talk, don't trust. If we grow up in addicted family systems, again, through the need to avoid because it's not being dealt with, these are the rules that emerge. Don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. This is a shame. We don't talk, we don't air our dirty laundry. There's the stigma of addiction in there, of course. So it's a more difficult conversation to have than if someone has a disease like diabetes or addiction, cancer or something of that nature. With addiction, there's a shame base to it, which makes it hard for families to talk. So those are the rules. Don't talk, don't trust, don't feel.
How do you break that? How do you go about, because that's huge. I remember early recovery, and even, and nothing against Alcoholics Anonymous, but we're anonymous. Like, don't tell anybody that I'm drinking. Well, you don't think they knew I was stealing every possible thing in the world to get my drugs and drinking at the bar. My car was always at the bar. You don't think they knew that? Like, and again, I don't mean anything against Alcoholics Anonymous, but how do we break that? Don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. How do we break that?
Well, as somebody who encounters families who are now telling me about their experience because they're coming to me because they want some kind of help, I'm validating their experience. So it starts with hearing, listening, and validating what they've been afraid to say, right? Because they're not supposed to break that code. They're not supposed to betray, I came from a perfect family. No, nobody comes from a perfect family. It's okay. And just start kind of normalizing the idea that all families are dysfunctional. It's a matter of degree, really is. And really, you don't have to call it dysfunctional because some people okay, but like, what are the family dynamics? What were the messages passed down generationally? What was the programming, so to speak? Because we were all programmed by our caretakers, not consciously. It just happens. But it's important to understand it.
Yeah. So
sometimes
we're
consciously, sometimes
consciously.
because I heard that you don't air your dirty laundry.
Okay.
I mean, we grew up hearing that, my dad was old school, and that's, you don't air your dirty laundry.
Yeah. My grandparents were like that, don't talk about that. When we go here, don't say anything about this. Don't talk about your dad's drinking, whatever it was, well, we talked about the treatment. So treatment, that's really at the beginning. Like you said, you're at an intervention. You're going to talk to that person. Your first goal is to get him away from the family, not because he's a bad person, not because the family's bad. We just need these two separated when the intervention, so both sides can start healing, and that's where that all begins. And I like how you said, we're going to come around to the family. I'm going to work on the back end with the family. A lot of interventionists don't do that. A lot of interventionists will just say, okay, well, my job is to get him in treatment. And that's what I think possibly it is, but there's more to it. You have to work the family. You have to, like you said, get to Al-Anon. There's a wonderful program that I went to, the Bridge to Recovery in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I spent a month there, 15 years into my recovery because of my codependency, because of all my, all the crazy thoughts. And it just took me up to another level. Even though I was the addict, I was still that codependent person. I still did some of those other traits.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
exactly. Right. So many of the addicted folks that I treat, they also need to go to ACA at some point, adult children of alcoholics or Al-Anon for their codependency issues, because all of that needs to be addressed. It's a family systems. It's called a family disease for a reason. The family members all have the same behavioral and cognitive distortions and acting out behavior. It's just one person's using, or maybe more, a chemical to self-medicate, to avoid, to numb out. But other people are doing other things.
Running around after the addict, making sure I can't work because I have to watch little Jimmy because, he's doing this. I can't go out tonight. People lose their whole lives because of their loved one's addiction. I mean, people won't go out. They won't, they worry.
They won't go on vacation. Yeah.
I mean, listen, guys, we only have one life to live, and you have to live it to your fullest because you're not going to get a second go around. I mean, I don't think we are. But I mean, I can't take that chance. You know what I mean? But that's the reason why I got into recovery, is because I want to live my life to the fullest, no matter what it is. If it's running, if it's sobriety, if it's jumping on and doing a podcast and overcoming that fear, taking a new job, eating differently. I want to experience all that. I don't want to be that person who just gets stuck in a rut and sits on the couch for the rest of their freaking life, staring at their wife or their husband and just saying, oh, this is a great life. We have $30 million in the bank and we're doing absolutely nothing. Well, I mean, there's a balance there. So that brings me into the relapse prevention part, because this is the most important part of recovery. It is nice to well, first of it's, the intervention's great and working with the family's wonderful. The treatment, you get inside those four walls and they tell you when to eat, how to eat, where to eat, who to go see that one, take this medication, go drink here, do this, do that. But that's only for 30 days in most cases. Some cases it's not. Then you have to walk out those doors, right? You got to walk out those doors. And, life isn't done in 30 days. You don't even touch the surface of recovery in 30 days. Yeah. So relapse prevention, and ladies, if you have, we've been all in this very deep, so we have a lot of information on the relapse prevention. But Karen, if you want to talk about it.
Sure. So I studied with Terence Gorski in the 90s. He was considered the father of relapse prevention. That's how I got certified in his model. But I've since morphed it quite a bit but it's called the developmental model of recovery. So what it really puts the focus on for relapse prevention is working a good recovery program. What does that mean? We can stay on track with our recovery if we know what to do. So we really want to lay out those stages of recovery and what are the tasks to be completed in each stage. So when I work with folks, I go over what those stages are, what the tasks are, and then I ask them, is there anything missing in your recovery? What suggestions have you taken? Which ones did you say, never mind to, I'm not going to not get in a relationship in the first, whatever, people want to do what they want to do. Yeah. So we challenge people to see what they're willing to do to stay on the path of recovery. So there's two aspects. One is staying on the road to recovery, moving in the right direction, completing the tasks that growing up. It's about growing up, going through the stages of development that were arrested because of our addiction. Then the other piece is identifying what are the stressors that are most dangerous for us. People, places, things that are our stressors, so that recognizing our warning signs and then developing strategies to manage those. So it's doable. Not relapsing is doable. Everybody, oh, relapse is part of recovery. It doesn't have to be, when we're given the right education, tools, and support.
Yeah. You're so right about it. It doesn't have to be. And I hear that said all the time. I even use it sometimes. Relapse is it's part of my story, no doubt about it. But, it's, I think if you, like you said, if we get the people, places, and things in order, if we make sure that we have all that support, and I like what you said here, and this is where a sponsor comes in. This is relapse prevention. A sponsor comes in, a network comes in, AA meetings come in, challenge people to do what they may or may not want to do in life. You know what I mean? Because I'm used to doing it this way, and I come into this room and all you drunks laughing at me, not laughing at me, but being happy. I just walked out of rehab. My life is a shit show. I don't know how I even got here because I couldn't scrub 2 nickels together. My wife is filing for divorce, and my house is being repossessed, and you people are laughing, and you're going to tell me what to do. You don't know what I need, right? But that's they do know what we need, right? Those people in AA, the therapist, like Karen and the friends in recovery people, we because we've been there, just like you said, we're all in recovery, and we've been there some way, shape, or form to help somebody, guide them through it. And I'm just talking on a peer level, but there are deeper ways of going into it, from, a therapy, psychiatrist, medications, and all that. Does that make sense? I guess I explained it too well. There's no rebuttal on that one.
No, absolutely.
So that's kind of that's why I feel the relapse is the most important. Relapse prevention is the most important piece of recovery, because once we get outside those walls, and we got to live our lives. We can't be and there are people that will sit in the house and not do anything. I know some people that do that because they're too afraid to do anything.
So we want to create a better life than we had before, right? I mean, nobody stays sober if the life that is now emerging is somehow more painful than it being an active addiction. The only reason people transition from active addiction to abstinence is because it's become so painful. So we want to make sure that we're creating a life that is slowly, people have all kinds of problems, like you said, all kinds of problems. And there are solutions if we don't drink one day at a time or drug. So that is really important people need tremendous support, and recognize that the people in the rooms who may be smiling and laughing actually can relate, and you can relate to them. And that's where the connection can begin, where realize I'm not unique. My story is no better, no worse. Yes, I have a story. Yeah. We all have a story.
Yeah, we do. Everybody, even people in recovery have stories too. They all have their story. I just, and we're going to close here, but I just want to kind of bring one more piece up about living life and like you said, change your mind and get out there doing things. That's why we put together, we have a Friends in Recovery Adventures group that we're actually going camping in 2 weeks, a bunch of us in recovery. But when I started Friends in Recovery and I started doing all this, I was lucky to have really good people in my life, people who took me out to go running, who took me to do these things that I pushed myself to do. Some people don't have that. Some people are by themselves, or some people, their spouses or loved ones don't support them. So that's why I wanted to do this Friends in Recovery, the adventures, is because we can have fun out there. And I'm not talking about jumping off cliffs or running marathons. We did a roller skating party once. We do all kinds of things in Friends in Recovery Adventures. Go out to dinner together, do a Friendsgiving, whatever it is, because it's important for people to understand, just because you stop drinking doesn't mean your life has to stop. Right. That is it, hands down. It's and I think this whole show from the beginning to end just proved that, the whole cycle of, okay, so here we are now. What do we do? Let's go have fun, And, so that's kind of what we did with, as far as Friends in Recovery goes. Karen, any information you want to give? And these are wonderful topics. Any information you want to give on maybe your free seminars, or
sure.
you want to close with that maybe?
Sure. To join 7 p.m. every Tuesday night at Eastern time, 7 p.m. The Zoom ID is 253-657-546. No password needed. Anybody can join from anywhere. Costs nothing. It's a PowerPoint. It's very informative, free. So yeah, get it out there. I'd love to get that information out there.
That'll be in the show notes. Ladies, any closing questions for Karen before we end the show?
Just thank you so much. Your perspective is definitely very welcomed, and always food for thought when, continuing that process of recovery. Like, it's a constant process that we wake up to, right? New level all the time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bambi, anything?
I'm just so happy again that you even mentioned the pause or the post-acute withdrawal, because I think people don't realize that it isn't just at 30 days. It can be 60 days, 90 days, 6 months. I think that's important for people to know, because it really hit me hard and people just don't know about it. And if they want more information, they can contact any of us and we can, give them more information on that.
Absolutely. Karen, thank you so much. Karen from Addictions Resolution Consultants. Please look her up on the web if you need any help, or go to our show notes here. Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern time is her Zoom meeting. The Zoom code will be in here. I will be on next Tuesday, definitely to check everything out. No doubt about it. And I'd like to thank. I'll be there. I'd like to thank everybody Facebook Live. We really appreciate you guys and all your notes over some great comments over there. And Karen, we're going to be in touch with you. If there's anything you need from us, please let us know, and we're definitely going to get you back on the show. Bambi I'm sure will be get in contact with you. So thank you, everybody, and stay sober.
Thank you.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.